Welcome back to the show, Business Mastery for Startups, Scaleups, and Early Stage Businesses with your host, Jerry Gadori. That's me. This week, I have the co-founding team, the executive leaders of Aqua IT. These two fellows, Ted Marshall and Joe
Meilinger.
Like I said, Meilinger started Aqua IT just a couple of years ago and have experienced extremely rapid growth. Now, as somebody who works in that space as well, I can say with some authority that it's rare that people achieve the rate of speed that these guys have grown. And even more importantly, doing it while honoring business fundamentals, growing a secure client base, and a fiscally responsible organization. So knowing that many of the folks out in the audience work in this space, I thought it would be useful to have these guys on and share some of what they've done and some of what they're doing. Ted and Joe, could you maybe expand on my overly short introduction and tell us a little bit more about Aqua IT and yourselves?
Yeah, sure. No, Ted Marshall, co-founder, Aqua IT, best small business you never heard of. That's how I describe us to anybody, right? We're focused on government contracting, delivering IT services primarily to the intelligence community and Department of Defense. Pride ourselves in being experts really in software delivery, right? And all the facets of software delivery, whether that's the actual development, the cloud architecture, the DevSecOps, and the cybersecurity that's inherent in what we do. My role has always been the hype man. I always joke that, my role is easy, right? I get in front of people and just kind of overpromise and make Joe and the team figure out how to deliver. And it works. No, that's not true. We pride ourselves on properly setting expectations. And yeah, that's how I describe us to people to get a conversation started. Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we started actually. I think today might be our 3-year anniversary. Ted,
Wow.
Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So we've been doing this for 3 years now. Started out just Ted and I, and then over the span of the last 3 years, we've gotten our facility clearance, and we've hired over 45 folks on contract at this point. So. And then all the while having to build out the back end of the business to be able to support that growth, which has been kind of a challenge into itself.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everybody dreams of scaling and growing their business, but very few people are prepared for it. I actually, at the time of this recording last week, I was at Boston Startup Week, and I recorded a bunch of shows live on site. One of the guests was a gentleman by the name of Anuja Diva, and we did a session on the math of scale. And it was extremely enlightening to see how many people have that explosive growth. And I know Ted was only joking about it, but don't build the organization behind it to be able to consistently deliver. And that explosive growth becomes a fast drop just behind it.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, it was critical for us, especially when it came to all the different facets of business. I mean, security has been a huge portion of our business, being like a government contractor. So, first starting out with fractional services. As soon as we get to a point where we've scaled big enough, then we'll probably bring some of those things back in. But, starting out with security, having that fractionalized, both Ted and myself, we've worked in the government space for years, but in terms of being knowledgeable in the ins and outs of industrial security, neither of us are experts. So being able to take some of those core services and put them in the hands of experts to guide us has been just paramount, and being able to free up our time to do the stuff we actually need to do.
Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say, Ted, but I want to comment 2 points on what you said, Joe, that's super important that we talk about in startups all the time. And the first is knowing when to bring a person on and what type of vehicle makes sense at the time. If it's something short-term where institutional knowledge isn't important, it's probably a contractor. If it's something more specific and longer term, but still not permanent, it's probably a consultant. And then at a point when you need true expertise, it's probably a fractional relationship.
Yep.
And I think a lot of folks missed out on that, and clearly you guys didn't. But the second hidden thing is when you can start offloading things that aren't what you do best, then you can focus on what you do best. And yeah, there's obviously a price tag attached to that, but it's typically much lower than if you were to do it as well, because it would probably take you longer to do less well. And when you're doing that, you're not doing what you do best.
No, I was gonna hit that point home. Want to piggyback on something else Joe said too. We're about to be approaching 60 FTE now And we've really done that in about 2.5 years, because for the first 6 to 8 months, we had to wait to get a facility clearance to really do any work. And so that growth that we've seen from Joe and I up to 60 people has been about a 2.5 year period within the IC and DoD. And to what you said, hit home, right? So I try to stack my day and our day, especially in the beginning, to focus on revenue producing activity versus administrative tasking. And what I found is that if I could focus on revenue producing activity during the day, I could then do administrative tasking during the night. So to what you said earlier, it really allowed us to focus on revenue only activity for a long time. But the double-edged sword there, we have families, and when they went to bed, we fired the computer and we did all of our administrative tasking, all our data calls, all our pricing, all whatever needs to get done, insert contract modification. And that's how we lived for a good year and a half until we got to a financial point where it made sense to bring someone on from a fractional standpoint to take that over. And now all of a sudden we get time with our family back to a certain extent.
You bring up a really important point that I think doesn't get enough attention. You remember back in the 20s when Gary Vee, the YouTube influencer, was talking about working 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, shaming people for sleeping more than 4 hours a week. That was obviously not the path. But the inverse is also untrue. Startups are never and will never be a 9-to-5 job. As founders and early stage leaders, you've got to pace yourself, but there are times when you're up from 9 to 12 rewriting an RFP or doing whatever, so that during the business hours you can be on the phones or doing whatever needs to happen to keep that revenue ascending.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you've really got to pay attention to yourself, because burnout
Yes.
is definitely a real thing. And when that happens, your productivity just goes down to the ground. So just being able to keep yourself aware of how hard you're working and making yourself take breaks, making yourself actually spend that time with your family is so important for your mental health. And I mean, we've both run into burnout spots before, and it's kind of like a road to get back on that horse to be able to keep going. But you really got to be cognizant of that, or you're just gonna wear yourself out.
I completely agree. Now, you guys have already shared some really important information, but so far it's mostly been the things you've done to set the stage for your success. As someone who also works in the intelligence and DoD space, I can say again with some authority, it's a hyper competitive space. So what are you guys doing to get in front of that, to be the biggest small business you have heard of instead of the one that you haven't?
Yeah. So that started from the very beginning when, hopefully this resonates with some people that either have started the company or are considering. But when we started a company, the thing that we thought about is what type of company we wanted to be, and fast growth was part of that. And so we knew that certain investments were going to have to be made within delivery to enable us to do that. It was understanding what the current reputation is for small businesses within the environments we plan on competing in, and then building around that. And one of the primary things that we kept hearing were that small businesses were great, very smart, but struggled to actually execute. And you can't deliver innovation unless you can execute. And when we pulled that back a little bit, it's like, how can you deliver me good people? And that's where we built one of the core capabilities around making sure we won't fall short in that area. And we'll go into that. But is basically thinking, listen, in our space, we got to build performances because you can't win contracts without that. But you can't build performances without customers, so you need customers. You can't deliver to those customers and get those performances unless you have people, really good people with high clearances. And then you can't continue to operate and sustain at a growth level unless you're keeping people happy. So now it's culture. And I don't think that last one's going to be earth-shattering for anybody. But I think taking all four of those things in mind, we went ahead and built out an org chart, workflows, delivery model on how we're going to be different and why we're going to be different. And part of that's really setting up a model that allows us to get in touch with people when they're not in secure facilities. And that's been one of the keys to our growth, along with proper incentive plans, both for our employees and for people that are helping out with delivery. And I think that those are some of the core foundations that have helped propel our growth.
Yeah, and awesome. Usually you've only got a couple chances with customers. So you've got to put your best foot forward. You've got to find the right people, and you've got to make sure those people stay. So, and that's kind of been our big focus in making sure we're successful.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I need to dig into one part of what you said, because it's funny. Culture and leadership are two things that get talked about a lot, but they tend to be spoken about so nebulously as to be unhelpful. So what I've come to believe is that one company's amazing culture is another company's toxic culture. There are far more bad matches than there are, bad companies or bad candidates. So when you say you worked hard to build culture, what does that mean at Aqua IT?
Yeah, it's a great question. I will do my best to answer this, but building culture is it's identifying the values that we wanted to set forth, and that it starts with us. We have to exude these values with our leadership and with our day-to-day interactions whenever we're interacting with our people, which we do often, especially at this stage of the company where we're sub 100 people and we're still the owners, so our fingerprints are still on this. And so you can go to our website, see our core values. That was important to us, and treating people that way. That's what it comes down to, just those small interactions. And then other things that we do is first and foremost, we accept most people probably aren't going to retire Aqua IT. That's the nature of the business, and that's okay. We try to make that known. It's like, hey, listen, if at some point there's another opportunity out there that's going to make you better professionally or financially or for whatever it is, and that's just no longer available with us, as long as you had a good time here, you challenged, you made good progress, you helped out, you solved some problems. Now it's time for you to go on to something else that we can provide. That's part of life. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a successful outcome for both sides, and maybe that can come back. And so having that open-minded culture hopefully is something that resonates with our people. And the other thing is you have to invest in them, right? This isn't earth-shattering. It's not going to sound new or anything like that, but you have to create events for your people, whether they show up or not. You gotta put it out there and say this is voluntary. You don't have to show up, and hopefully they do. And some things that we've done that have been popular so far is we do a company-sponsored poker tournament, right? And in that we put all the money in the pot. No one has to do anything. We do it at a local brewery. All you can eat, all you can drink. Take care of your own transportation. And we play poker and have fun and do that. And then another one we got coming up at the end of October is a murder mystery comedy dinner where we all dress up in different Halloween costumes. And we do that regionally for all of our teams. And, and again, same thing. We're covering all the costs. All you got to do is show up and get yourself home in a responsible way. And, things like that help contribute to that. So it's the day-to-day interactions, and it's really showing people through action, both how you interact with them and through what the company is going to do to create that type of environment that's going to help have an influence on your culture and hopefully help with people sticking around longer than average.
Yep, could not agree more. I mean, I think when we had sat down and came up with all those core values, I mean, it was imperative that Ted and myself were going to also embody those, live and breathe those day to day. And it just kind of became a natural thing to gravitate towards people that also, had those same values and like apply those values when they're actually delivering to.
That's huge, Joe. And this might not sound earth-shattering. And Ted, you said that a couple of times. This might not sound like new or whatever. It isn't new, but it's rarely embraced. It's like eating healthy, exercising, and getting sleep. Nobody's going to win an award for saying those things, but how many people actually do it? So don't belittle your achievement. It's amazing. But Joe, what you just said there is also huge. The secret sauce, if there is one, in services is your people. And if you don't connect with them and get them on the same page, you don't get anywhere. Specifically, you as the leader setting the tone. You can put all the pretty core values on your website that you like. The second you do something different, your team will notice. And they might not say it from you, but they will say. So huge. And Ted, I know we've talked about my book in the past and that specific part. It's interesting. One of the challenges in government contracting that I've seen is that the government contractor, meaning the actual worker out there, when you ask them who they work for, they will typically say, oh, I work for DOD, I work for whoever. And then you say, oh, I thought you were a contractor. Oh, yeah, I am, but I work for DOD. They don't even mentally associate with their company. But building the type of culture you described, I'd be surprised if that were the case where it comes to Aqua IT.
That's the hope and the goal there. We want people to resonate with the company and be happy and proud to work here. That's that's considered a win for us. And I think that's a labor of love that's never ending. We're always going to be constantly refining our approach to achieve that.
Absolutely.
No, I think that's awesome. And Joe, we've been talking a lot about, the people and the hiring and the government side.
Yep.
But as the tech guy in this organization, from an infrastructure perspective, what have you done to prepare for scale?
Well, a lot of that had to do with signing up for the right services. So basically, from the get go, we had kind of some options between Google and between Microsoft when it came for kind of our base infrastructure. We went with Microsoft because we knew that that was kind of more adopted by the DoD and IC. But beyond that, just making sure a lot of our services were actually connected to software as a service model so that those services could scale with, when we had 5 or 10 people, we didn't have to go through all this rigmarole to be upgraded to the next tier for support or anything. We just wanted to be able to basically press go and be good
Like a
based
plan.
on how many people we had.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I would suspect that as your company continues to experience the growth that it has, that and you continue to grow, you'll start to make the transition from fractional people to full-time people and work that in. Have you guys established a growth-based hiring plan? Have you gotten that far yet, or are you still hiring as needed?
Boy, I think we're still kind of in like the very first portion of that. But yeah, that's definitely something that's part of our outlook, part of our strategy. Yeah, but we have not gotten completely into the implementation there. There's so many different things that pop up day to day and pop up along the whole strategic outlook of the company. It can be interesting to know which things to actually prioritize. That is definitely a priority for us.
Ted, you look like you want to add something.
Yeah, well, I want to add a couple things. Yeah, so we don't have like a full blown mathematical plan of, hey, we just hit X billable and now we're going to add X overhead, right? I'd say
Mhm.
it's as needed, and we have room to add where needed right now, and that's a fun spot to be in because me, I'm always like, okay, let's focus on more revenue, more customers who can help us with that, and then who's going to help us to continue to dominate in how we deliver. And those are the things that we focus on from hey, when are we going to now make an overhead hire? And it's good to be in that position right now. And then another thing where I think Joe didn't want to toot his horn too much, but another thing that I think he did that really helped set us up in the beginning, him and a couple other folks after we got up and running, was to really define our technical approaches to how we deliver software, because we think that
Mhm.
we do it in one of the most advanced ways right now, and being able to put that on paper so we can see it, we can tell people about it, we can put it in RFIs or RFPs or whatever it is, was important. So anything from how we handle source code management to DevSecOps to building low, pushing high to reusable code to a number of things that go in the software delivery lifecycle, and getting that out in the open early, upfront, lots of content was important. One, because we were able to really organize around that, and then that helped us be a little more lean and agile when it came to responding to opportunities that we felt aligned with our capabilities.
So what I'm hearing is from the beginning, you built a body of knowledge that you could utilize to target your ICP more specifically and directly.
Yeah,
Mhm. I mean,
there's the
well,
agile manifesto for like how agile was born and how people look at delivering from an agile perspective. And I'm just making this up right now. It's like the Aqua IT software development manifesto, right? So that's what it is. And so we use that as our core guiding principle in how we do things. And of course, that's another thing that as technology evolves and delivery approaches evolve, we're constantly iterating that as well too, to make sure that we're always integrating best practices into what we're doing.
Yeah. So interestingly, you guys keep, and you're not doing it intentionally, but I love it. You keep throwing out basic business concepts that everybody probably knows, but they just don't do. That's the fun. They just don't do them. So what you just described is it. You're saying it matter of factly, but I can count on part of one hand how many times I see small businesses actually do it. And here's the secret. So I'm thinking of 2 times where I've taken fractional senior executive roles in a company. One time, the company had a very, very specific service that it offered. We only did one thing and we crushed. The other time, the founder and owner's attitude was, my best customer is the one that will sign the back of a check. And we accomplished almost nothing. Why? Because in the first example, it was clear who we served. We built a body of work that supported that thesis. And it became a no-brainer that if you wanted work in that space, we were the people to go to. And the other one, we had a not really well-connected body of work, everything from writing an ATS CRM system for a trash company to writing a mobile license renewal app for a state to rewriting the infrastructure software a communications company. All these were great projects. They were all very impressive work, but there was no connective tissue. It was difficult to replicate anything because we did three big cool projects that didn't sell to the same customer. But what you guys are doing, it sounds like it's happening already, but it becomes a no-brainer. If I'm implementing software, I go to Aqua IT.
Yeah, no, tell everybody that. That's the truth.
That is the goal.
And this is a good transition to kind of flip over from company infrastructure and in growth on the people side to the customer side. Your message seems very clear, but obviously a big part of your extremely rapid and explosive growth has been winning new business. So what have you done in that space beyond what you've already said?
Made a lot of calls. Like anybody else, we threw as many fishing lines out there when we started, and what came back, we were kind of, yeah, we could do that, right? Understanding that we're building around certain core capabilities and that we could do things outside of it as long as we set expectations properly. But I think it's just, sometimes you make your own luck with sales activity and calling, and if you're willing to put in the work, I've said it before, and again, this is something that's been said. This is something that I've read, but it's, every no you get, you're that much closer to your next yes. I just, they get me to my no. It's okay. I'm okay with this. It does not bother me. If it's a no, it's a no. That's okay. And a lot of times, it's not a no. I always say it's just a no. It's just a no right now, right?
I don't know.
Couple
It's
weeks,
not,
maybe
not
it's
right
not.
now.
A couple months, maybe it's not. There's a term that I use called pleasantly persistent when I try to stay in touch with people, and that barometer is different for everybody. And I don't always get it right, but I try to make sure that I'm doing that because, from a sales standpoint, of course, and this, Jerry, the percentage of people that give up at the first time and get business, that number is pretty telling. And then the amount of times that you can follow up and stay on someone's radar without being annoying to them, that number goes up in terms of your chance of getting an opportunity for business. And that's how I've always pitched it, right? It's like, hey, listen, if you guys are doing great and everything's running smoothly, there's no point for us to talk, right? There's not, right? But if there's an area within one of these capability areas that we think we're pretty good at, we'd like to explore this more. Maybe we can help. Maybe we can't. I don't know. And I don't know if that's answering the question, but I just think that for us to get opportunities from a customer's perspective, it was obviously work our network, and then beyond that, be willing to put in the calls and embrace the no's. It's okay. That's part of life. And, if I get 100 no's, but I get 15 yeses, that's 15 contracts, 15 customers, or a combination of that. Maybe there's multiple contracts within the same customer base. Who knows? But that's the best way that I can say it is we were willing to make the calls.
Yeah, and I mean, really tapping into your network. I mean,
Yes.
Not just Ted's network and my network, but we repped in quite a few employees that have connections everywhere too. And just being able to utilize some of those resources to expand has been super helpful.
That's a good point too. We have a profit sharing plan, and we extend it to everybody in the company. And if they can help us open a door where we don't know this person or this organization, and that leads to business, we share every piece of profit with that person. It's a scaled one. Starts at 5%. It goes as high as 15%. So it's a really healthy profit sharing plan. And we have people that are engaged in that right now. And that's helped open a couple of doors. And we're happy to pay that because we wouldn't have had it anyways. So, I think that's another thing is trying to create a real incentive for your organization, for people in it to help you on that front with customers, especially if you're not, ready to make the calls, right? Find another way to make everyone else make calls for you if it's possible.
It's so interesting. People see explosive growth like you guys have had, essentially, to your point, Ted, 2.5 years to get where you have, and they might get jealous, they might get whatever. But listening to you talk, both of you, has been a case study in doing all the little shit right. I've been coaching training for a long time, more than a decade now. And so often, especially when I'm talking to salespeople, but owners too, they're looking for some magic bullet. They're looking for some secret, super advanced, magical spell they can cast. But the reality is, doing the basics right is what wins championships. That crazy, one-handed catch over that guy's head, that's an incredible highlight reel. But that's not what won the championship. It's doing all the little things right. And you guys, you've hit on all of the things, build a strong culture that supports your growth, incentivize properly, grow your people, make sure that you show that you understand them, do consistent work. It's like a case study in doing the little things right. So congratulations, guys. I can't wait in 2 or 3 years to hear you telling me that you're breaking 1,000.
That would
I'm
be
holding you to that, by the way.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jerry.
Yeah, we love to do that. Yeah, and just to confirm, if anybody's wondering out there, I want to make sure that everyone knows that the FT that we have on staff, none of these were badge flips, none of these were incumbent hires where we got on the contract and pulled someone over. Every single one of these were competitively staffed and delivered amongst a sea of companies that are trying to hire these people with top secret TSSCI and higher clearances, and we've delivered for our customers each time. And so I think that's what's taking notice at this time, both from an industry standpoint and then also from a government customer standpoint, or at least maybe I'm just speaking that into existence.
Hey, as long as it gets there, how you get there is less important. Well, listen, guys, it's been great speaking to you both. What you're achieving at Aqua IT is nothing short of amazing. I can't say this enough. Ted kept saying, I know this isn't new. I know you've heard this before, but I can't stress it enough. Yeah, we've all heard it before, but who's doing it consistently? This is the outcome. This is how you become one of the fastest growing small businesses in the space. Congratulations, Ted. Congratulations, Joe. Thanks for being on. If folks want to learn more about you and what you're achieving, where can they find you guys? Where can they learn more?
Our website is aqua-it.us, and both Ted and I were on LinkedIn too.
And our company page is on LinkedIn as well too. Go ahead, go there. If you're interested in any of the content we publish, go ahead and follow. And if not, don't follow us. Just check it out. Snoop on us, spy on us. It's all good. Keep the tabs. And yeah, reach out to Joe and I. We're happy to hang out and talk. If there's more questions that come up from this, it's all good. But Jerry, I love how you put it, right? And now that I think about it, I think that, we focus on doing all the little things better than everybody else to the extent that we're capable of doing it. And so if we can dominate doing the little things better than everybody else, we're probably going to have a little more success comparatively. And so far that's been true. And we're excited for what the future looks like. I'm the sales guy, kind of out of the own pipeline. Pipeline looks healthy, but we'll see how it turns out. But appreciate the opportunity to be on this, Jerry. And any follow-ups, just let us know.
No, thanks for being on. Well, thank you, Joe. And I'll tell you, Ted, wrapping up with this thought, I'd rather win the championship than the highlight reel. So keep doing what you're doing. Have a great day, guys.
Take care.
You too.